Sullivan.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. May everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To read the executive session statement, the board met in executive session this evening prior to this meeting to discuss matters of employment, issues related to labor relations, the purchase or lease of real estate, matters related to litigation, and matters related to school safety and security. Burns, do we have any announcements?
No announcements.
Announcements. Turn for our superintendent's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. In board docs, you'll see November's enrollment report. Enrollment is stable. Actually, it's up a bit. So that's there for you to review if you like. I'd also like to take a moment. Tomorrow is Veterans Day. Here at Maple Point Middle School today, they continued for the 20th year in a row their Veterans Day ceremony. Normally it is in this room, on this stage. And then obviously we were unable to do that. Ms. Ann Schmidt and her team of teachers and students put on a parade for veterans. The veterans showed up in their cars with their families. They drove up the entry drive lined with flags and our students waving and thanking them and our staff. Also greeted by the fire department and a huge flag. That event will be aired in addition to the actual parade, but the actual speeches by various people throughout the community, some elected officials, tomorrow at 11 a.m. on YouTube. So we can all enjoy Veterans Day and the Maple Point Parade. Well done by Maple Point students and staff today. I want to draw everyone's attention to our COVID-19 dashboard that keeps track of the cases requiring us to do contact tracing in the district. So on tonight's agenda is a motion to reopen our elementary schools 4 days a week. So I wanted to point the board and the public to that data. I'll quickly review it. It is available on the district website. The big button right smack in the middle when you get to the page will lead you to it directly. Since June, at Neshaminy High School, there have been a total of 5 students, actually 7 if we count some summer athletes, and 0 staff requiring us to do contact tracing at Neshaminy High School. At our middle school, putting all the middle schools together, a total of 2 staff and 5 students requiring us to do contact tracing over the last several months. And we've been in school since September 14th. At our elementary schools, 2 staff members and 3 students, and that is as recent as today's data. So that's how we have progressed and how the virus has impacted students and staff and made us help the Department of Health as far as contact tracing. So that information is publicly available on the district website. As I mentioned on tonight's agenda, as presented at the last board meeting, it is the recommendation of the administration that we move our elementary school students to a 4-day-a-week model, Monday through Thursday, with Friday being Zoom classes, based on what we've seen over the last several weeks and our ability to keep students and staff healthy and do the appropriate contact tracing. We continue with that recommendation. If the board were to approve that recommendation tonight, on Thursday of this week, elementary parents will get an email, and that email will articulate how far students will be apart in their classrooms. And that varies by school and by grade, since each of our elementary schools are a different size and shape. Since each of our classrooms are additional size and shape, and each of our grades have a different number of students in it. And many of those numbers remain at 6 feet, some are at 5, some are at 4, and some are at 3 feet. So parents will be able to make an informed decision. Also in that email, we'll be asking parents if they want to change the academic model that their child is in. If approved, we'll be eliminating the hybrid model at the elementary level, going to the 4 days in school or the Plan D options. So the plan will simply be if you are in the hybrid model and want to stay with the all-in model, you do nothing. If you're in the Plan D model and want to stay there, you do nothing. If you're in the hybrid model and don't want to move to the all-in, let us know. We'll move you to Plan D. So if the board approves that tonight, parents can expect some information as far as to help them make their decision and then what to do if they've changed their mind. So that's all I have. Mr. Allen? Thank you.
All right, Dr. McGee, I thank you. That brings us to our first period of public comment. I think I lost my place. Yes. Ms. Burns, do we have?
There are no signups.
Okay. Brings us to a number of action items we have this evening. It's 4.0 on the agenda. Mr. Sullivan?
I'd like to make a master motion to approve item 4.01, certificated staff leaves of absence, 4.02, certificated staff retirements, resignations, 4.03, co-curricular appointments, 4.04, support staff appointments, 4.05, support staff leaves of absence, 4.06, support staff retirements and resignations, and 4.07, support staff revised leaves of absence.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Motion's on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Bowman. Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item passes. Was it 9-0? Moving on, I will read 4.08, reopening of the school. Elementary move to Plan A, all students in school beginning November 30th. Whereas the Neshaminy School District is required by the Pennsylvania Department of Education to approve a reopening of schools' health and safety plan, and whereas the phased reopening plan is on September 8th, begin Plan C, online instruction through October 2nd. On October 5th, begin Plan B, the blue-red hybrid. Conditions permitting, on November 30th, begin Plan A, all students in school for grades K through 4. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the Neshaminy School District reopening health and safety plans move to Plan A for grades K through 4 on, sorry, I'm reading off, that is Monday through Thursday on November 30th as presented, subject to any changes necessary due to conditions and additional guidance from the applicable government agencies in the coming weeks. Do I have a second?
Second.
That was Mr. Kovitz. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Final passes 9-0. That brings us to 4.09. Mrs. Hollenbach?
NESPA Article 7, Section 5-1, Wage Adjustments. Whereas the Neshaminy School District has a collective bargaining agreement with the Neshaminy Education Support Professional Association through June 30th, 2022. And whereas Article 7, Section 5-1 of the agreement permits the association and the district to put forth committees to discuss possible wage discrepancies based on market conditions. And whereas, whereas the committees for the district and the association have met to discuss the needs for wage increases to non-grandfathered employees to attract and retain qualified employees in the area of custodians, cleaners, and information technology employees. And whereas the district committee has recommended increases to those employee groups. Now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the committee recommendations that the following increases be approved effective November 16th, 2020 as follows. Custodian, cleaner, lead support, network support, system support tech, tech help, and building technician. And all the increases are listed on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second? Second. It's by Mr. Sullivan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Item passes 9-0. That brings us to agenda item 5, items for approval at the next public meeting. It's 5.01, Neshaminy Kids Club lease. 5.02 will be budget transfers. 5.03, which will be the first reading of policies 006, 006.1, 903, and 012. The Board Policy Committee is continuing conversion and revision of the existing district policies to the Pennsylvania School Board Association format, and they are posted below.
Mr. Allen, just one note, 3.17 was missing from that description. That's included in the agenda item.
And where is 3.07?
You look at the grid, 3.17 is on there.
5.03. Underneath the first reading policies?
Yes. If you look in the section grid, you'll see 317.
Oh, I see, 317, conduct disciplinary procedures. Okay, thank you. And 5.04 will be the update, the articles of agreement related to the Bucks County Technical High School, which we'll discuss a little later. That brings us to committee reports. 6.01, business operations, Mrs. Hollenbeck.
Our next business operations meeting is next Tuesday, November 17th, 6:30 in the boardroom. And I believe it's just mostly about the budget. Is that correct, Mr. Irwin? Mostly. Yep, because we, believe it or not, with all of this other stuff going on, we still have to formulate our budget for next year. Everybody is welcome as long as we are socially distanced with our masks on. Thank you.
Thank you. 6.02, educational development, Ms. Bowman.
Am I on? The educational development meeting was held on October 20th, and we discussed, the following information was presented to that committee. We reviewed the summer programs that were held, summer 2020. We also discussed the 2021 instructional programs, and components of each plan were presented, including support offered for students, staff, and parents. And our next Educational Development Committee meeting will be held on January 5th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. 6.03, facilities and planning, Mr. Sullivan.
The next meeting is on November 18th. It will be in the district boardroom. And actually, we will have a discussion and presentation that night about the possibility of a new elementary school on this property.
6.04, policy committee, Ms. Boyle.
The committee met last Thursday evening and reviewed current board policies for discussion purposes and edits as seen in tonight's first board readings. And our next meeting will be January 28th, Thursday, 6:30 p.m. in the boardroom, and all are welcome.
I thank you. That concludes our committee reports. That brings us to our representative reports. 7.01, the IU Board, Mr. Cerullo.
IU Board continues to provide services during this COVID crisis, so to speak. They're dealing with it each and every day, making sure that the students are properly handled in whatever way and the safest manner. That's it.
Brings us to 7.02, Neshaminy Education Foundation. Ms. Boyle.
The Board of the Neshaminy Education Foundation met on Monday, November the 9th. And this month, the NEF is proud to present an $18,000 donation to the Neshaminy School District for the purpose of wireless headset microphones for the teachers. Let me see. The Board of the NEF chose to make this donation to help with hybrid and virtual learning during the COVID crisis, in place of holding the traditional annual teacher grant program. And the NEF is going to conduct an end-of-the-year mail campaign to encourage local businesses to join them in supporting education. And our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, December 14th at 4, and will be held virtually, and everyone is welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Boyle. That brings us to the Pennsylvania School Board Association liaison, Mr. Pertano. I'm going to step in, and I have a few remarks from the tech school. I received a communique from their representative from the tech school, from the tech board, Christian Swartz from Pennsbury, who attended the November 7th virtual meeting of the Delegate Assembly, 10 a.m. I just wanted to make note of a number of platforms that may be of interest to the Neshaminy community. The legislative platform they've adopted, calling for meaningful reform of our charter school issues, mainly increasing accountability, help us with funding, and the second is, of course, continuing financial help for our school districts from the state. That's always in there, and to address the health and safety, mental health issues regarding this, some of the pandemic of our elementary schools and high school students. Just to be aware that that we need to do all we can to assist school districts throughout the state in coping with those issues that are cropping up. And those are the main legislative platforms, if you will, that were voted on and passed. And that's all I have for the PSBA. Mr. Pertano, you have anything to add?
No, Mr. Allen, you covered it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Brings us to the technical school report, and I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Bowman.
The Bucks County Technical High School Joint Board met on October 26th. The tech school is currently in hybrid mode, so we got an update on the success of that. We also agreed to extend the Articles of Agreement for 1 year. Our next meeting will be held on November 23rd at the tech school. Also, applications are now being accepted, so if you would like to apply to the tech school, the applications are online. The deadline to turn them in is November 30th, and that must be dropped off in person at the Bucks County Technical High School. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bowman. That brings us to our second public comment period. Anyone wish to approach the podium? Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and of course, no personal attacks.
Hello, good evening. Deborah Harker, Middletown Township. I'm here tonight again to ask you to take a look at your health and safety plan. All of us want the schools to reopen, and all of us would love for our children to be in school 5 days a week if possible. The biggest part of getting our schools open is to keep the virus out. When I look at the health and safety plan, and when I've called the Board of Health to talk about this issue, Neshaminy accepts the modified quarantine that was created by Dr. Damsker for Bucks County. What that means is that if a student has been in close contact with somebody who has been positive, As long as the school allows the modified quarantine, they're going to let the student come to school as long as they promise to wear their mask all day and eat lunch separately. I'm sure that that's probably a minority, and I've talked with administration, and I think they're doing an excellent job with the contact tracing and notification. And for most parents that are conscientious, they choose to keep their children home, and I think that's wonderful, and to everybody out there, I say thank you. I'm worried about the parents that are not conscientious, and if they're not conscientious to keep their children home, why would we think that they have been responsible in other aspects of their lives, and why would we want those children to come to school? We have an alternate option. We use it for the D1, and we pride on how wonderful this Zoom school is, that students can attend school full-time via the D1 option. I don't see why we accept the modified quarantine and why we allow the Board of Health to allow those students to come to school when there's an alternative that's completely acceptable to have those students attend school via Zoom for their quarantine period instead of coming to school wearing a mask where we can't be 100% sure that they're going to be honorable and actually wear it all day. I don't think that's an acceptable risk for any of our children to have that one. I'm getting a letter almost every other day now of a positive case at the high school. My son's in 12th grade. All 5 cases are 12th grade students. Today I got one saying that my son's been in the same classroom with the positive case. So when you look at it from my standpoint and our risk, I shouldn't have to opt out when you have the ability to keep the virus out by getting rid of the modified quarantine. And if the number of students is so minor, it shouldn't even be an issue. I've talked to the Board of Health. They said not all schools accept it. Neshaminy does. So all I'm asking you to do is please reopen that health and safety plan and revisit it before you go to all in. Thank you.
I forgot to ask you to identify yourself. Did you? I forgot to ask you, but I'm glad you took care of it. Is there anyone else? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Scott Haney. I'm still a pupil distribution engineer, and presently I'm monitor at Pearl Buck's recesses. I just have a question. I'll make a scenario. Say, what would you suggest an employee do if somebody in their immediate family in that same household has been tested either positive or has the symptoms or, has been exposed? What would you suggest that the employee do, even though they're not the ones that's been tested, but they're underneath the same roof? That's all I have. That's the only thing I'm asking, if you have any suggestions. Any questions about my question? Thank you.
We'll address it during board comment. Thank you. Going once, twice. Right. Moving on, that brings us to any future topics? No future topics? Hearing none. All right. This is to Dr. McGee during our board comment period.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Mr. Haney will be glad to fill you in on what to do. The situation that you described, unfortunately, is happening throughout the nation, and there are set procedures and practices as to what constitutes who has to do X, who has to do Y, and who has to do Z, and we have the same practices here at work. So based on the individual circumstances and the particular situation, every answer is different. So I'll be glad to talk to you after the meeting and describe how that applies to you. All right? That's all I have, Mr. Allen.
All right, thank you.
As far as the modified quarantine, the Neshaminy Health and Safety Plan, it says to follow the recommendations of the Bucks County Department of Health, and that's presently what we are doing. And we've been doing that successfully. So there aren't a whole lot of kids who are being quarantined. There aren't a whole lot of people who are coming to school with a modified quarantine. And that being said, when they do come to school, we seem to have been successful in that virus not spreading at our schools. More of a technical issue, we don't quarantine people, we exclude people. So if they are quarantined, we exclude them from school. For me to exclude somebody from school or from work, there has to be a good reason for it. And if the prevailing public health official doesn't believe they should be excluded from school, we would be in conflict with that. All right, so that's why I believe we should continue following the direction of the local Department of Health, because that individual has a vested interest in keeping the county healthy, and if that organization does not believe they should be excluded from school, how is it that we're going to exclude them from school because we know better about the virus? So that's where I are. If that's where I am. If the board wants to reconsider that, we can easily write that and add that in for the November 24th meeting. Okay. It really doesn't change the operation of the district, other than there'd be less kids coming to school if there was a close contact, or staff coming to school if there was a close contact, based on the Department of Health's determination who has to stay exclusively home or whose contact was in such a way that they can say there's a less severe risk of that person infecting others.
All right, I thank you. This time I'll open this up for the rest of the board comment. As we've been doing, I'll go alphabetically here. That brings me to Ms. Bowman.
Again, I just want to remind everybody that the technical high school is accepting applications it opened up on November 5th. Those applications must be turned in person until November 30th. So I can't stress it enough. You must turn it in person. So I'm hoping everybody takes advantage of our Bucks County Technical High School opportunity. Also, so we did agree to bring the little guys back in. With that comes a huge set of responsibility. So I'm hoping the community, the parents take this seriously, and please, 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 if you suspect that your child is sick or has been exposed, keep your child at home. And please pay attention to Ms. Burkholder's reminders of how to screen your child every morning before coming to school. And I look forward to getting started and having everybody come back, the little guys, K to 4.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. Brings us to Ms. Boyle. Comments tonight?
Yes, I just wanted to thank the administration for all their help in getting our children back to school, and I'd like to especially thank the teachers for their cooperation, and also the parents for all the help that they have been.
Thank you, Ms. Boyle. That brings us to Ms. Hollenbeck. Any comments this night?
I don't have any comments at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kovitz?
Yeah, I wanted to, obviously, again, thank the administration. Thank you in particular to Mrs. Burkholder for helping to work with this, work with us to reopen the schools for our youngest. And to Ms. Bowman's point before, this is This is not an easy job for us. We all want the same thing. And we realize that we're doing this at a time when cases are going up in the county. They've gone up considerably. Positivity rate, number of cases per 10,000. This is all, or 100,000, excuse me. This is all stuff that we're doing at a time that may seem antithetical, but we do feel that there's an amazing opportunity for our little ones to reconnect with what it means to be in school, and for our kindergartners who haven't even been in school yet, other than through the hybrid. This is a good thing. We want that structure, but we can't do it without the community's continued support. We can't, and we do have a means to back out of this. We don't want to, but all it takes is for the adults in the room to stop being adults in the room, to have us shut this down. Nobody wants that. We need everyone's help. We need everyone's dedication to making sure everyone's safe. And if we do this all together, I think we'll be very happy with the results.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kovitz. That brings us to Mr. Barrington.
Yes, I just like to say that I believe the Neshaminy community has done remarkably well with this whole crisis, and I refer to the dashboard and the relatively small number of cases we've had. That's due to cooperation from everybody in the community. We've done a good job so far, but our greatest test is coming. We have holidays and we have winter, and we're going to attempt to get the K through 4 kids back in school. I believe that is the best thing for those kids, for academic reasons, social reasons. For it to work, we just need to continue as a community to do what we've been doing. We can't let our guard down. In fact, I think we're starting the fourth quarter. It's time to actually increase our efforts and pull back together again to make this work. None of us, and I include everybody up here, I believe everybody in the audience, nobody wants to see this fail. We don't want to have to shut the schools down again, but we will need total cooperation or maximum cooperation from everybody. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Barrington. That brings us to Mr. Cerullo.
I just want to thank the teachers and the support staff, their cooperation and their desire to allow us to send the kids back to school, hopefully on November 30th, is invaluable. Without those people, we can't get this done. And again, always Dr. McGee and the administration for maintaining, steering this ship in the right direction through tumultuous seas at this juncture. But again, thank you to everybody working on behalf of this district, pulling in the same direction to get the kids back to school. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cerullo. That brings us to Mr. Sullivan.
I have nothing to add at this time.
Thank you. I'll call upon Mr. Piratano.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Again, I want to just say happy Veterans Day to our veterans. If it wasn't for you guys and girls, we wouldn't be here to be able to celebrate our democracy as we do when we have these meetings. So much thanks to all our veterans. I also want to take note that in our personnel action tonight, we had one certified staff that retiring after 34 years of service, and we just appreciate your service to Neshaminy. In addition, I supported tonight's motion to move our students back to a full in-person for kindergarten through 4th grade. I believe that is the proper move. These are the students that have the most difficulty in a virtual environment. They're also a group of students that are least likely to have any complications or contraction of the virus. But regardless, that means we just need to be ever more vigilant as everyone that had commented on it before spoke about the need of our parents. This is a community effort. It will continue to be a community effort until it's over. We will support our students getting them back in. We will keep them in here, but we need you parents at home to make sure not only are you keeping those K-4 kids safe, but keeping an eye on our teenagers. I remember what it's like to be a teenager. I know what it was like to raise 2 teenagers. They don't listen. We know that. But if the behavior of our upperclassmen doesn't change and it continues to grow, it is going to cost the board to reevaluate how we're progressing and bringing in different levels of students back. We want to keep these sports programs going. We want to move to everybody come back in, but it's going to require sacrifice, especially from our upperclassmen that may think at this stage in their life they know better, but they really need to listen to the professionals and mom and dad, and keep an eye on how they're associating and what they're doing when they're associating. Otherwise, thank you all for participating this evening, and I look forward to supporting our first kids coming back at the end of November. Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Bertano. There's not much I can add to what my fellow board members have said about the health and safety plan and bringing our K-4 back, other than this will be a community effort. We will continue to do everything that we can to keep them safe, keep them happy, and part of that, I do believe, is to bring them back into the school and into a more structured environment than they're currently experiencing. We understand the pressures that parents are under, that our administration is under, the staff is under, we as a board are under to get this right, or as right as it possibly can be. We will continue to monitor the situation. There are still a number of logistical issues for getting our students back into middle school and high school. They are not insurmountable. We will continue to work on those. And you as a parent, of course, are always the best advocate for your child. So ultimately, the choice is yours. We felt as a board it was our duty to offer you the choice of bringing the elementary school kids back as soon as we were able to. So that's where we stand. Thank you. I want to make note of the Veterans Day ceremony today that I sadly missed under COVID conditions. It's one of my, I say this about a number of our community events, but I truly do enjoy the Veterans Day ceremony that is held here usually. And the big flag out on the field. If you haven't noticed it when you drove in, take a stop, take a look. I want to thank our groundskeepers for having it lit up. It looks beautiful. And I know that the veterans who I've talked to through the years, they look forward to this event, and students also. And I'm just glad that even in its modified form, we were able to pull something together. So that's the credit to the Maple Point community, administration, staff, and of course, the students who like I said, do a wonderful job. And that brings me to one other item that I wanted to thank our custodial staff and building and district administration for the wonderful work they've done last week, for opening the schools up, allowing the public in for our election, and more importantly, for being able to wrap it up and clean the buildings up, get them back in shape to bring our students back in. That was a fantastic job. I heard a number of comments I read on social media about how helpful building administration was to the the poll workers, and I just want to make a point of mentioning that and thanking everyone. Other than that, that's all I have this evening. Mention some future meetings. Our next meeting, public board meeting, assume that's a misprint, 6 o'clock, it should be 7, yes. For the 24th for public board, Maple Point Auditorium here is our next meeting. As mentioned, the Business Operations Committee meeting will be on November 17th at 6:30, and I believe that is district here in our boardroom. And also Facilities and Planning Committee meeting will be on the 18th of this month, November, 6:30, also in our district boardroom outside. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to call the meeting.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kovitz. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion passes 9-0. Thank you all. Have a great evening.